welcome back to beautiful summery Berlin and the State Farm Analyst Zone, where the LMS champions Flash Wolves are just one win away from securing a spot at the MSI group stage. And for now, they're definitely saying we don't belong in the plains, we belong in the MSI group stage. And that unfortunately means that Gambit are not able to really do anything. They seem like a shadow of what we saw of them out of the group stage, especially in that early game. I'm not seeing Gambit do anything, really.
Well, that was the first game where they didn't get first blood out of all the games that they've played. So I think they're 7 and 8 for first bloods right now. And I think a lot of it's composition. I think a lot of it is the draft. Gambit are putting themselves in late game situations.
And at least in the first game, I was fine with it because game 1, they had a good strategy of being able to elongate the game. It was game 2 where you felt like the plan wasn't coming through because the lanes themselves was kind of falling short.
But, oh, we heard you don't like our scaling. I'm going to pick Kassadin blind and wait even longer to put something up on the map. So that game plan, we can talk about it a bit later. It's not working out. And on top of that, for the Flash Wolves, it is working out for them in the early game. Moojin, the new guy, we had some question marks. Is he going to be like Karsa? Karsa brought so much to that lineup. And until now, I think we're pretty impressed with what he's been doing early on.
Well, it's him plus Moojin, and it's Moojin Maple, right? That's that combo. Without Karsa there, doesn't seem to matter. They still had, in that first game, they had good synergy. Moojin came up, stole the Baron, won them the game, and then in the second game, his synergy with the Trundle pillars into the Swain pole decimated Kira pre-level 6. It's exactly what you need to keep the Kassadin down.
I love how I saw the 2v2. It was kind of Karsa-esque in the sense that the compositions they're running is a lot of the Karma Lee Sins. This one was Karma and Kha'Zix to allow Moojin to thrive. That was what I love to see, but it got a little bit more further. I'm not saying that it was better than the combination, but it has a new flavor where Moojin is a lot more willing to go for the aggressive plays later on in the game once they have the early game leads. So this is interesting to see if they can continue on in this pace and if this is the new style of Flash Wolves.
I love how you say Karsa-esque, Kafka-esque. I mean, it is an art. Jungling nicely is really beautiful to see. What I was
jungling is hard. I just hear jungling is hard, and I'm like, thank you.
In any case, as we talked about the jungle and the mid lane, I do want to talk a bit more about the mid lane. We had the question marks for Kira. Will he be able to do international what he's done in the LCL? Unfortunately, the answer so far is no, but I want to know from you guys how much of that has to do with the picks, how much of it has to do with the lack of pressure he's getting from Diamond, and how much does it have to do specifically with the skill gap between them?
So for game 1, it was the pick, but I liked it just because it's double TP looking to protect bottom lane, and he's taking a poor matchup, Karma versus Cassiopeia. That's not going to work well for him. Game 2, it's a little more interesting because it is all hinging on the jungle attention, because if he doesn't get the Graves coming into his lane, then a lot of it does fall through. He's a Kassadin, he's going to get pushed in, and if they fall short, then that's a Kassadin Ezreal. They don't have wave clear, so it's incredibly risky on the early game, and all centered around jungle, the attention that he didn't have versus Moojin.
Yeah, and to answer all 3 of your questions, yes, I think that it was the draft a bit for Kira. Yes, I think there is a big difference in the way that they're getting attention from the jungle. And I also think, yes, there is a skill disparity there. I think Maple is a better player than Kira, especially on the stage today. And he's going to look even better because the fact that the team is actually giving him resources and playing around him. And we aren't seeing that for Kira because he's playing these scaling champions.
Yes.
So, I mean, hopefully we can see at least one of those things mitigated in different picks for Kira going forward. However, when you talk about skill disparity, when I look at the bottom lane, I think SwordArt is also someone that's definitely been stepping up. Now, I'm not saying he's all around much better player maybe than Edward mechanically this or that, but it's not just about that. It's about what he does with the vision. It's about the way he moves around the map. It's the way he ganks actually on his Alistar in last game and all the moves he's able to make.
Yeah, so 100%. You already mentioned it. The fact that he's moving towards the top side of the map when they recognize the dive is coming through, that just means communication is there from them. Remember, SwordArt is the member that's the veteran on the lineup, the one that's remained true from old Flash Wolves and they were performing well in international tournaments to the Flash Wolves today. So he was the person we were looking towards and saying that he should be performing in this fashion, and he is.
Yeah, he's the person who pulls the trigger, has the veteran experience, makes those plays. And I gotta say, he is reading Gambit like a book. The level 1 where he came in and knew that Edward would come through that route completely shuts him down.
And I also love that the Flash Wolves still have that happiness they're known for. They're always very happy after they make the plays and you see it. And it seems that that spirit is still alive. And who wouldn't be happy if you're up 2-0? But then, Zyrene, you had the 3-2 prediction in favor of Gambit. So tell me, how is Gambit?
Thank you.
How is Gambit going to win 3 games in a row?
I don't think they are, but I will tell you how they do it. they stop picking these mid laners that are rough with scaling. You need at least one power point in the map to transition pressure to scaling lanes. Normally picking two things that scale is really rough in the first place. Usually have like an insurance policy. But they're picking too much scaling. So I say dial it back. Play compositions that have lanes that affect each other, like the GP, or take the GP away and allow the game to just slow down, because we saw 6 early kills come out for the Flash Wolves, and that spells the end of Gambit trying to scale. So just slow the game down, pick a little bit of scaling, not as much as they have been.
And you're on course if that happens for your prediction to come true, Raz, because you had a 3-in-1 for Gambit. But overall, it looks like Flash Wolves is just head and shoulders above Gambit right now. They are much better. We have to see if Gambit can turn it around, or if the Flash Wolves can close it out, as we send it over to the casters and get us into Game 3.
Thank you, Shocks, as it looks like rough goings for the lads over at Gambit. Flash Wolves just prepared, clean, looking good, everything's firing. I mean, whatever superlatives you want to use, you can kind of apply them all right now to the Flash Wolves.
And when you have individual players outshining their counterparts, and then what is a better game plan going in, you will win majority of your games. And I think that's what Flash Wolves are showing right now. However, Gambit have thrown curveballs in the past, and I think it is time to dust one off right now and try and get that going.
Let's get some cheese, right? I know we don't like using the term, but we saw the lasers from the sky in the darkness comp. Like, we've seen some cool stuff from this team before. Gambit was the guy that revolutionized jungling many years ago. And right now, he is being kind of pushed around by the young Moojin, who was formerly in the Challenger Series in Europe, and now first split on the Flash Wolves.
And I think that there are tweaks to be made, because there is a slow tempo being played right now. So, you know, go back to things like the Jhin. Try and create the team fights and try and get the game degraded and scrappy at the earlier stages. Because if that begins to happen, then you can get your way back into early Dragon fights and up the tempo of the game.
Yeah, I think Zyrene made a really good point in that we need to see more presence from the laners of Gambit. Like, get yourself a couple of winning lane matchups. Make sure you have priority somewhere so that Diamond has something that he can play through. Give him a jungler that enables him to have a little bit more ganking pressure, because I feel like that this team has the ability to fight well. We saw that in Game 1, but it's so much easier to do that if you at least find these early leads, have a little bit more control over some of these early objectives.
And I think there were shades of that in passages of play in that last game, but the draft definitely did not reflect that. So, again, we talk about changes. Really, it does start in the champ select.
Yeah, it certainly does. I think that what you're saying is, you know, the early invade that came out, that was nice. They tried to use the Braum level 1 and they tried to come up with some cheese. That's also very good. But when you're playing around a Kassadin and he has to burn summoner spells at level 4, the laning phase after that point is going to suck. And that laning phase did suck for Kira. So I think that you can make these small tweaks, and they just have to give themselves more forgiveness within their composition. We said that's why we liked comp number 1. I think that's why that game was more competitive. When you're running around with things like Maokai, it is much easier to execute upon game plans, and I would like to see them go back towards.
So Flash Wolves, they only need one more win. Gambit have got to find themselves 3 and get the reverse sweep. You imagine that there is a pretty hefty weight on the shoulders of Gambit right now, given they had such a dominant play-in stage. They wanted to go into this series and put up a good fight, and while everyone was afraid of the Flash Wolves, Gambit wanted to leave with at least a good showing.
Yeah, potentially there are still questions for the Flash Wolves as well in this game to be answered, because they haven't shown anything outside of the LMS. So there is a potential that teams could be looking at this and saying, you know what, they're the better team on the day. They have come in and played their style, but they haven't really shown me any of their adaptations either. We've seen Hanabi have some good games, which weren't necessarily always there in the LMS. However, still want to see Maple step up and continue to carry out these games, and I still want to see SwordArt's creativity coming to the forefront.
Well, so far so good at the start of the draft. Anivia Gangplank the change there as Gambit have banned away Skarner. So first 2 bans remain the same. I do like the, I guess, the Flash Wolves that make the adaptation. They clearly know the power of Gangplank, are going to keep it out of this game.
Gangplank is one of those champions that scales so well and then has like a fantastic 1-4. So has very limited areas where you can attack him unless you're willing to all in invest into the turret dives, into taking him down. And that requires a comp to be built around the top side of the map, which unfortunately we just do not see all that often.
Now I'm looking at priority for the Flash Wolves, because so far they have banned things like the Kaisar in last game. They also banned away in Game 1 Anivia GP Ezreal, and it looks like they're just mimicking that performance. Now, would the Rakan take it off the board? I don't suddenly imagine that Sejuani becomes their first pick, but that doesn't mean that a Trundle or a jungle pick is out of the question.
I like the Kai'Sa ban though from Gambit, again, keeping that one away despite decent amount of success with it in their hands in the first game, but Looks like Moojin, yep, just going to stick to the Trundle.
And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we've seen so much Trundle, and it has not been successfully navigated through a counter pick point of view by many teams yet.
So with the Kai'Sa off the boards, you're thinking about Gambit. Will they try something different? Will you just trust in your players and go, you know what? Let's go a little bit more aggro.
Play
Let's
the
see if we can
Nocturne
get these.
comp. I don't care. Just play the damn Nocturne
I think
comp.
Nocturne's also... Oh, okay.
There we go. I mean, a classic pick for Gambit in general. Diamond obviously has a lot of experience on the champ. I also like the Jhin a lot from Lodik, just willing to say, Edward and I have been very willing to be aggressive in games, so I'm just going to pick the Jhin, and let's just find an earlier pressure point we can play with.
Sound the horn, go into the sniper setting, just get everything set up for Kira and Diamond to be able to access team fights. That is where they were having success during the play-in stage. And Jhin, to me, is still one of those champions that you can successfully navigate lanes. He scales absolutely fine into the late game as long as there's not heaps of tanky members and can still be played.
But look at the engage options available for Flash Wolves. Alistar still up and available. Ornn still up and available. Two big comfort picks for the Flash Wolves. And you think about how great of a game SwordArt had on Alistar before. Now he's going into an immobile AD carry rather than an Ezreal. And you would only imagine that that is the comfort pick for him.
So slight misclick, wanted Alistar, got Annie for a second, but has since swapped it over to give SwordArt a repeat opportunity to have another great game. But there's Morgana actually for Edward, so kind of still sticking with the theme, not as aggressive perhaps, but still a very solid support.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think this gives them back the push in the laning phase.
For sure.
They'll be able to bully out on the Alistar, and if you're stuck underneath the turret as SwordArt, potentially you don't get the opportunities to be able to rotate around Summoner's Rift. Morgana, one of those picks that, if played well, is super stifling to play against.
And I think that Morgana does a lot of things that are valuable against this comp as well, because it mitigates the engage from the Alistar, assuming that it's not the Morgana getting instantly flash pulverized, and then the Trundle pillar becomes effectively redundant. You do have to be careful from the Varus ultimate that can break it, but it can still mitigate a lot of that engage tool. So I think that in lane and when Flash Wolves are looking for picks, that Morgana will mitigate a lot of that.
And the bans that are coming through are just proof that the Flash Wolves aren't rattled at all. There's no
change.
You know, yeah, there's no change, but there's also no like recent power pick that they now have to adapt and kind of take away. They're still going towards things that, you know, they just don't want to play against. They don't want to get cheese. They don't want to play against something like a Kha'Zix, so they continue to take that away. And I think that right now, I'm looking for something to come up that kind of breaks this mold that Flash Wolves have put on this series.
The Rise will be a change for them, though, at least. Gambit have banned it twice already. Camille, the other ban, as Sion is locked in there for Gambit.
But we wanted to see pushing lanes for Gambit. We get it now in the bottom lane. You've got it up in the top. You would imagine Flash Wolves looking at something like the Cho'Gath once again. Pretty good as an answer, unless they want more engage to come out, which they can do with the Ornn.
Well, they've got Alistar. They're thinking Ornn maybe just add some more cowbell. It's not quite the same with the Ornn horn, but looks like that will be the lock in there for Flash Wolves.
And I wonder how supportive Maple goes in this composition, because there is some damage coming out of Moojin, and we've seen him play a couple of, you know, not high threat DPS carries. That is going to be a high threat DPS carry if he locks in, and that's one of the questions that I had. Can Maple ascend to his past brilliance? Because his 2017 was not the Korean slaying, was not the solo killing Faker Maple that we had seen of the past. And this could be the road back to that.
This is at the very least the first step on his eventual or potential road back towards earning that title. Now, Gambit once again with the hover. I feel like they're not going to go for it. They've drafted themselves a pretty good pick comp. I could see it making a little bit more sense in this draft because you can set it for a 1-3-1. You would be lacking in a little bit of wave clear, but Vladimir in the early levels doesn't have a huge amount of power, and the Kassadin should be able to mitigate that. So I think in this draft, it makes a little more sense than it did before.
I mean, there's another champion that sounds very similar to that one. That might also have been a decent pick here. Cassiopeia, we have seen into Vlad already. So, I mean, again, I think Kira is just defaulting the combat. Clearly, they have practiced this pick and are confident in it. It is tough for Gambit fans to have confidence right now, but this is all they have left. They must win every single game from now on.
And the one thing I will say is if you all of a sudden isolate someone in a side lane against the Kassadin, at least you've got a Kha'Zix to come in and blow them up with high mobility this game. So I'm kind of in a similar vein. I don't love the pick, but it makes more sense in this composition. It's also historically been not a bad matchup for the Kassadin.
But I do think that with Gambit's comps, their ability to force more skirmishes is a lot stronger. This is exactly what you wanted to see, Spawn. Can we see a little bit more early action from Gambit? Try and force a couple more plays in the early game. You have a few more winning lanes this time around. You have more options available. The emphasis is on Diamond to make use of the tools that he now has been presented.
And again, I think Gambit have shown, you know, even though the drafts are changing up, it needs to reflect in the play. Game 2 had shimmers of that here and there. But I really just need to just get in there and just suck it to the Flash Wolves. They need one big kind of shaking, changing moment. And I think the Flash Wolves will not respond well if Gambit can really bring some pressure. Because, again, they've been kind of kicking their feet up, playing the relaxed style they prefer. And while Gambit do have tendencies to play slower early games, they know they cannot fall as far behind, or else this game's just going to get erased from the history books and Flash Wolves will stroll on down to a 3-0 sweep.
They just need to get control of an area of the map and continue to revisit it. We've seen Flash Wolves be way too calm. You know, they've been making the first move time and time again. They've been under absolutely no pressure. So somehow, Gambit have to be able to wrestle that back.
Well, we are going to move ourselves onto Summoner's Rift for what could be our final game. The Flash Wolves are up 2-0 here in the best of 5 as Gambit will have those bricks in their back. Going to have to go 3 straight here and reverse sweep the Flash Wolves if they want to continue their dream of playing once again on a bigger international stage. They've already done so much work here in MSI during the play-in, but they do not want their run to stop here. That's not what all this preparation was for.
Certainly not. Paystream now, we do see Flash Wolves trying to get a bit of a glimpse in the other game as to where Diamond is starting. You can see a bit of a line of scrimmage set up all across the board, but Flash will successfully get that ward down onto the tower. Gambit, Edward rather, getting some early gold, but landing the binding onto Betty and
Ching.
Ooh, more gold. He's rolling in it right now.
Space Fox goes out, adds insult to injury. There's a third one.
Don't
really
face check, don't face
that?
check.
More gold coming in. Oh, another binding hit Betty. Good
This
news,
is
perhaps.
the ultimate early game for Gambit. They wanted lane pressure. Well, now they've taken half of Betty's health and his health pot.
And that's what I was going to say. The sustain there is now going to be heavily in favor because this is going to be the Doran's ring start. That means the mana will always be there for the Jhin. We'll be able to continually push in. And they are looking to abuse this 2v2.
Ooh, this is Edward getting a bit of revenge from his past games. You know what? You guys have pushed us around in the early laning phase, but this time we're feeling much more confident. And Kira, against the Vladimir, should hold out a little bit better than he has done in the past. Typically, I'm expecting the Q-Max this time around. The thing about Vlad is he's very predictable when he's going to hit you in the face because he has a bar underneath his health bar that tells you when he wants to hit you in the face. So as long as you time it properly, you can mitigate a lot of that lane damage, even if you can't match his sustain.
Moojin right now flying through the jungle because the blue buff already full cleared the left side, so going to dip down here into the bot side. Kira perhaps expecting an invade or potentially another gank. Does not want to repeat of the last time, but Maple is going to throw out his Q.
And I think step 1 to success in this game is not dying twice before level 6.
Yes.
Kira.
Good point.
He needs to be able to create pressure by getting to the items quicker than he was able to last game. Kassadin is a ticking time bomb. Like, he eventually will go off if you leave him by himself. However, what we saw in the last game, that he was not even able to get to 2 items without having to go a very strange route. And it's one of those picks that it just seems to play into the Flash Wolves' hands.
And I feel like Flash Wolves are more than capable of punishing it. They had the Trundle game 1 where they hard shut it down. The difference is Vlad doesn't have as much utility and gank setup that the Swain does. But in terms of damage, they're definitely going to have that in spades.
And if you're Diamondprox, this has to be super annoying. Every single time you try and start a camp, a troll just runs in and chucks a ward on it, and you know that he's not playing for the gank. He's just playing to find you. And Diamond, this is when the creative jungle pathing comes in. This is when you have to take maybe a different recall and start at a new part of Summoner's Rift. You know, Scryer's Bloom potentially going to help him out here if he chucks it towards his camps, but it's just as important knowing where the jungler isn't than where it is. And every single camp, 3 camps he's been to so far, Diamond has been scouted out.
And we do look to the veterans on Gambit to carry through, especially at a time like this. Diamond and Edward need to really step things up. We asked Diamond to play a bit more aggressive. His pick has indicated that. But right now, being very much stifled by the youngster, Moojin, having such a great series so far.
Yeah, the new members of Flash Wolves have actually been impressive.
They're very good.
Moojin and Hanabi have both played fairly good games, and I always compliment players that play both style. You know, Ornn into Gangplank is not the easiest thing to adapt to on the fly, and so, you know, you've got to give credit where credit's due.
Yeah, and like this, as we mentioned, is Hanabi's first ever professional split, and he joined a storied organization who have a long history, not only regionally, but internationally, as being famous for shutting down the Koreans. And the fact that he's already off to a very good start kind of speaks wonders for his potential future.
And let's take it a step further. They've been a great team that have historically had pretty bad top laners. So if he can come in and turn that around, then potentially this is where you start saying that the Flash Wolves that is now being presented internationally can surpass the Flash Wolves of old.
And for Gambit, it's kind of the redemption story for them, because for a very long time, for many European fans, they have wanted to see Diamond and Edward return to that international stage. They wanted to see Moscow 5 kind of be what it was in terms of that for glory. And when you have Stejos and Kira who joined this squad as part of what was a very successful Albus Nox Luna, there was a lot of hype surrounding this roster, and then play-ins looked good, especially relative to last year, where in Worlds they went 0-4. And to then come into this best of 5 and not really have the performance that they, or really many fans, expected of them, I'm sure it would be a big disappointment. So while the pressure must weigh on them, the fact that they made a war cry coming into this game, they know what's on the line, and they know they have to show something in this game.
And they're players that have played with backs against the wall before and performed well. So I think that this is not a strange concept to them as Hanabi goes aggressive.
Yep, Stejos, oh, good flash.
Was he going to die then?
I think he was worried about potential junglers because he has absolutely zero vision on the top side of the map. So because Moojin was not spotted, he was like, right, if he's going all in, jungler's probably here, I'm just going to flash for the safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Did not have the ulti because I was like, why didn't he just ult out? Didn't have mana for it.
Ah, okay.
So I was like...
The ultimate feels bad,
yeah, feels bad, man.
Diamond in level 5 though, he's going to run into the Trundle. Diamond heeds your advice. He's waiting. Who will face check first? Oh, there's a ward in the brush. Never mind.
Kira is playing this so much safer than what he played game number 1. The lane was pushed up, but he knew there was something in that brush, so he just backs away, plays it nice and safe. I like it, Pastry.
That was the condition for him to get Kassadin again in the draft, I think. And things have certainly gone better. Diamond now bot side. This has been kind of a bright start early for Gambit.
Where's the ulti? Look at Sion. He's in the bottom lane as well.
Here we go, charging down the bot lane. I think they have to know what's up now. SwordArt barely going to miss beating a binding of Betty. About to get drifted up. First blood charging straight in. It is Stejos onto Betty. Now SwordArt and Hanabi are going to try and defend under the turret, but Gambit, they want more. They can feel the fire back in. They're going to try and get aggressive. SwordArt's the target of Diamond. He tanked one too many shots. And now Hanabi is going to go back in onto Stejos. Flash was going to trade there.
That ends up being a 1-4. Now look at how low Kira is.
Whoa! Flash Moojin forcing the mid lane of Lodik. He's out of there.
He's still in some trouble, though, because Moojin's going to cut him off.
Out of there for how long?
No
Lodik's
way.
Like, all right, do I bait? Do I bait? I have to leave. Please don't chase me. Maple's like, yeah, you're donezo, mate. You're going to flash in, get the Ignite Hemo flag done. Lodik is like, Yep. Maple with a kill. Oh, Moojin, another aggressive.
Oh, no.
Flash Wolves, they're just imitating Gambit style. You want a flash? We'll flash too.
Oh, the Flash Wolves turn out amazingly after Gambit tried to force a play. The counter-engage from SwordArt, the collapse from Maple, everything falls apart for Gambit as they just get too greedy under the tower.
Yeah, and I think they just did not execute well on that dive. Stejos, the tankiest member on the lineup, drops aggro. Diamond picks it up. Level 5 bug gets squashed in the bottom lane. Then he walks back through the turret, takes 90% of his health, cannot go for the withdraw at the same time as his AD carry. And it looks like SwordArt really wants to just dig the heels in.
Back to where he almost is, roaming in another lane. He's not even level 6, but he's not going to need it. There's the no flash Sion about to get chain CC'd for a very, very, very long time. Hanabi grabs it.
And you know what SwordArt's saying? He's saying, if you come to my lane, whoa, not going to lie. If you come to my lane and gank me, I am more than happy to return the favor, my friend. You ran the choo-choo train over my AD carry right here, but you know, who can play that
And I'm
game?
going to mimic you because here we see, woo, the counter engage into the bottom lane. The Sion, the beautiful drift, gets a kill down onto Betty, and this is great. Perfect start. At this point, you disengage. Instead, they choose to hard commit to a dive. They want more kills, and that allows Maple to roam back down towards the bottom side of the map. That allows SwordArt to reposition and recalculate, okay, what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to lock you guys underneath my tower and turn this in my team's favor.
However, they are still doing what we asked them to do, and that is shove in bottom lane. They're taking a lot of the health off that turret. Top lane, now that Banner of Command is nearly completed for the Sion, is going to start becoming, you know, a pushing lane very hard for Stejos as well. Has managed to keep, you know, an extra minion dematerializer. The only real question left is, can Kira get through this rough patch? Well,
again, Kira certainly struggling, but the bright spot once more is Gambit, as Diamond is back to the scene of his first crime down here in the bot lane, but Moojin sniffing this out also as well. Who will counter gank first? Looks like FLICKR, I think, maybe sensing something there. Aren't going to commit too hard.
Let me tell you, Pastry, if your support walks at the AD carry and the jungler walks out as well, and Lodik sits there with his 4th shot saying, I dare you, there's generally someone else in the lane.
There is generally someone else in that. It's like when in mid lane, rather than run towards your tower, you run towards the bush. You know that there is someone in that bush.
Well, Clouddrake going over to FLICKR again. That first little play, I like the attempt from Gambit, but not converting at all. Moojin gets yet another first straight for the FLICKR. 3 for 3 so far in the series. As a binding combo will land in, but SwordArt with the ulti is going to hang out and just tank it.
4 members now towards the bottom side. Even though FLICKR have been spotted, they force Gambit away from the tower. So even though they've had this pushing 2 versus 2, FLICKR recognize, you know what, we still want to have this control. Ooh. We have a winning top. Let's see if they can stop it.
Diamond here, but FLICKR is just going to go diving. 4v3, going to try and make it happen. There's an ult out, but that's Edward dead. Maple able to grab the last hit.
And Kira does not follow. The early game Kassadin has no real impact, and Moojin is just working with Maple, as he always has done, to get Flash Walls another early tower.
And it's not only that, it's that they go from mid to bot, they transfer the pressure down there just in case Diamond wasn't there and is looking for a gank top lane at the same time. There's no counterplay here for Gambit apart from soaking up 2 additional waves of experience in gold, and when you compare that to the first turret advantage going down, it's just not the same.
And this is it. The vision all gets cleared out by the flash walls. They know that there are no summoner spells on Edward and Lodik. They simply wait for the black shield to disappear, and then Betty throws his ultimate out to secure an easy kill. And it's simply a matter of flash walls recognizing where they can continue to extend their lead. SwordArt with a great roam top meant they have a winning top side, and given you have the push with Maple on Vlad, it's super easy to roam down to the bottom side.
And we see Kira actually go aggressive.
They're doing it again. Here's Moojin and SwordArt now looking to try and dive at Kassadin. Betty's also here as well. They'll take the tower pressure instead.
You know, maxing your E is all well and good to help with the wave clear, but in this situation, you do not have the wave clear to stop a 4-man push onto your tier 1.
A 10 creep wave, 4 champions in there as well, as the turret does fall down. FLICKR starting to pick up the pace.
Yeah, just methodically going from bottom to mid, looking to close this game out quickly. Can see that Kira really wants to have some form of pressure, but there is just nothing here for Gambit to gain.
SwordArt's just happy to go back in again. Moojin with a massive pillar onto 2. Edward trying to find him with the pulverize. Just going to delete one. Moojin able to get Edward. Silence unstoppable. Chasing the ball out of the ring. But Red Buff's going over. I mean, Gambit is running out of stuff to do at 12.5 minutes.
Yeah, this game is getting very ugly. You can see Flash will just confident play after confident play, walking in as a unit and daring Gambit to do something.
Oh, for Gambit, this is definitely a rough early game. They tried to be proactive, and Flashball said, well, if this is what you're going to try and do, we will crush you at it. And they have just stopped everything that Gambit have tried to set up. They're now even setting up for a tier 2 at 13 minutes into the game.
And you look and you're like, it's not like the CS differentials are all that big. Like, where did this all go wrong? They just starved them out of vision. They played the map. They grouped when they needed to, and one small error from Gambit on that dive now has this as a response.
It's just that difference in summoner spells, right? So many times you see teams that they'll gank mid and they'll go, oh, the flash is down, and then they don't go back to mid again. Flash Wolves throughout this series has recognized where there is a summoner spell advantage, and they have looked to punish it as often as possible.
Now Riftchild going over to the Flash Wolves. It feels like the heart of the team in SwordArt is really firing away, and together with, I'm going to say, kind of the new brains of the organization in Moojin, those two in tandem, whether it's SwordArt making plays or Moojin just so perfectly tracking the enemy jungler and setting things up. This is a player to me that, yes, goes aggressive, but when he knows it works. And the Flash Wolves are now getting on that page and just starting to run this game completely out of control.
But what I love to see is when other members start getting involved. We've seen Maple be able to shove out the lane and join the fights in the forest, be able to go down to that bottom lane and set up turret dives for his teams. This is going to be crucial for Flash Wolves' success because their playoffs games looked so much cleaner when they were able to replicate that game plan.
4,000 gold ahead though for the Flash Wolves. Not to kind of understate how effective this early game has been. Again, they've got the Rift Herald. We'll see where they go next because they've already got 3 turrets.
The thing is, at this point in the game, it can actually be quite difficult to kind of keep the pressure going because, yes, they have a very healthy lead, but you kind of look at the levels and they're the same. You kind of look at farm and they're very similar. And while a couple items have been completed, the gap isn't so monstrous that Gambit are just suddenly weak. It's simply the fact the Flash Wolves are moving around the map that much quicker, and they're utilizing the fact that Gambit's composition does not allow them to really stop these early playmaking. But with the Rift Herald, Flash Wolves will likely get themselves another tier 2, but their next goal is really just controlling the enemy jungle and starving Gambit out as much as possible.
And that's what it comes down to, because when you have a look at a 4,000 gold lead, if everyone has 1,000 gold each, you know, that's what we're kind of looking at the moment. It manifests itself in a pickaxe advantage. They're looking to collapse on Maple here.
Yep, gonna go 1v2. Diamond and Kira also down here. Maple might just turn tail and try and finally get the TP in. Now 1v3, soon to be a 2v3 is Maple and Moojin roaming once again. He barely misses out on living, but they're gonna look for the trade. SwordArt back in again. Looking for Diamond, who's forced to flash out of the way. The headbutt kill will be donated over to the Trundle.
Where does SwordArt come from? This guy finds secret passages throughout Summoner's Rift and is always there to help his team out of dire situations.
It's just so funny to watch. All of a sudden you're like, yeah, we're fighting 2v2, we'll retreat back to our turret. Why the heck is there an Alistar at our tier 2?
He just shows up and he's like, boom.
That's it. One of you have a new job. I'm not following the stuff on screen. Somebody has to track SwordArt because those movie boots are painted red or something.
You need a SwordArt cam, you know, that just tracks wherever he's going. They must have found these secret hidden passages, but we can just track him on the minimap. So he pushed up mid, he comes in to the enemy jungle, he's like, my bot laner is in danger. Do not fear, Maple, I'm on my way. The TP comes in, and because you're Vladimir, you get to stall for a little while, but the ulti just didn't quite pop, and he didn't have the second proc on his Q either. And then, fortunately, SwordArt shows up, and that gives enough for him and Moojin to secure themselves a turnaround.
And off the back of that flank, because Kira was most likely going to fall anyway, he gets himself a flash and an ultimate out immediately as soon as he is there, just burning summoners. And this is what you mentioned, Vedius, the fact that that exchange happens, it looks like it's a 1-for-1, but you know, double flashes down, ultimate now not available for Edward for potentially the next engage. Means that what looks like an even trade is actually in favor of Flash Wolves.
Right now, just owning the control of this Rift. They get themselves a second Drake as a result. Ocean given over as well.
I will say one positive is that they've been able to actually get Kira into a side lane much earlier this game. And they have a Jhin, not an Ezreal, so they can clear out mid lane wave for a very long time.
Unless SwordArt gets in the way, of course.
Yeah, potentially.
He will get in the way at this stage. Kira actually,
Kira.
Who's flanking who? Kira, yep, gotta be careful. Over the wall you go. Oh, he goes onto them. I think that must have been a misclick.
I guess he had no way out.
Yeah, he just wanted to surprise. He thinks maybe I can burst Betty out, but now Maple, he's in trouble.
Well, whatever happened here was bad news for Kira. Ulti, yep, gonna get pulled out of there by Maple. Vladimir just sending some love their way with that Q maxed up with the Blood Rush. And hey, there's the Rift Herald we found a few minutes ago. Now, we're going to finish off that tier 2 turret. 4 turrets to 0. Now as Flash Wolves just keep getting further ahead.
And they just walk into your jungle, they take your mid laner, they take your red buff, they take your top lane tier 2, they back out as a unit, and they're just still looking to create picks if Gambit cheat through vision.
They just take everything from you as the Flash Wolves continue to strangle Gambit out. That goal lead is only getting bigger. And while Gambit have had a fantastic play-ins up against the veterans of the Flash Wolves with 2 new players, they have not been able to answer the pressure.
This is an absolute shellacking. Like, this game has so
quickly
become...
What is a shellacking?
Like a really one-sided affair.
I see.
Yeah, this game has very quickly become like a hole that Gambit will struggle to dig themselves out of. You can see that Stejos is trying to maintain one of his outer turrets. Says, please.
SwordArt, I thought he had Hex Flash because he was hanging behind the wall, and I was like, surely he's not going to try and dive this. But he was just trying to send a message, you know, peering through the trees, being like, I'm watching you. I'm ready to dive if you go anywhere near my lane.
Well, Gambit looks like they're about to maybe lose another full side of the map. Looks like Flash Wolves are going to disengage, so good pressure there, down there onto the tier 2 bomb. But good news that it's only 5 turrets to 0 and not 6. Blue buff, though, does get taken away from the Kassadin.
Positive fall, only 5 turrets, you know, only 2,000 gold down in the jungle
Only
position
19
right
minutes,
now.
don't worry about it too much.
Diamond says, if you're going to steal my jungle, I'm next step ahead of you. Like, I'm just going to go to yours.
I'll steal your soul, though. Maple ghosted into battle.
Okay, this is a little over-eager for Maple. He has no vision right now.
You say that now. It does get the shimmer down with the E, but all right, knows a little bit better. SwordArt's already on the way, by the way. Just hoofing it up towards the left side. Flash Wolves back invading on the left side.
And I mean, this just looks like the Flash Wolves right now, outclassing Gambit, unfortunately. You can see that they're in behind Kira again.
This is an exquisite performance from Flash Wolves, but also, like, when you think about it, going into the main group stage when you're going up against some, like, very hyped up teams in Kingzone, RNG, Liquid, Fnatic, EVOS as well, after their great performance yesterday, you kind of want to show that you're a step above the other competition and that you can play with some of the bigger regions, you know? So the fact that the Flash Wolves have had such a great series so far can only fill them with confidence coming into the main.
Only one slot left, and the Flash Wolves say that has our name on it, Gambit, as they continue to apply the pressure. Diamond is invisibly sneaking through the brushes just to get a bit of information. At this point, I think Gambit are rightly worried about a very early Baron. In fact, it's already been started.
They have absolutely zero vision. I'm not sure if they have any blue trinkets to spot this one out. It looks like they will. They'll drop it down.
This is going to be the fight.
Oh, SwordArt, again, another very creative thing. And Stejos just goes in basically to die. Starting his own personal 1v5. Hanabi looks for the ult and finds it landing in. The Chain CC will be there. They've now lost their front line. And the Baron is now an even realer possibility.
And ladies and gentlemen, that is what frustration in a top laner looks like. Not able to get anything started for the entirety of this game. Sees a couple of low health bars and just says, if we're going to fight, we're going to do it now. Unfortunately, whiffs the engage, and now Baron right back on the table.
Well, again, the vision drained out there. That control was still around, like even slapped down the trinket just in case. Diamond is checking. SwordArt spotted him with a sweeper, just trying to keep them out of the pit.
Now, Moojin did steal a Baron away in game 1. Can Diamond do the same for Gambit?
On the same champion, Diamond, though, I think he already burnt an ulti charge. No, it looks like the brush instead.
Maple's just 1v2ing.
I mean, they're trying to find him, but Maple busy with the bot lane. In the meantime, a root lands into Kira. They pull off the Baron. Flash Wolves just know every move Gambit is going to make. And SwordArt, he's finding there's he going in, but it just doesn't matter. Baron, a desperate attempt. But Flash Wolves play it perfect. They grab the Baron. They're so far ahead.
Beautifully executed from the Flash Wolves, stomping Gambit around the Baron. They secure the objective, and they have their eyes set on the first inhibitor of the game.
And when SwordArt can solo your jungler, you know the game has deteriorated, and they're now looking to push in. It's only 22 minutes in.
Inhib turret going down. Inhib will maybe join it soon after. Death timers are short enough that Gambit may get a chance to defend. Flash Wolves, again, do their due diligence and get out of the way first, because Moojin is busy split pushing bot lane.
On the bright side, Pastry, there's only a 5-tower difference between Gambit and Flash Wolves as they secure one down in the bottom lane. But yeah, you can look at some of the farm. It doesn't matter because the gold is just so insurmountable. Keep your eyes on Maple. Look at that. 1 versus 2, level 13 to the level 8 Morgana.
Stop Maple, look at SwordArt. That is the jungler. He's just trampling all over him, ignites him. Diamond jumps into the pit to get away from the cow.
Yeah.
Would rather fight the Baron and 3 other members of Flash Wolves.
Oh, SwordArt, the time's like, no, never again, never again.
Diamond does get some vision.
Oh,
They're trying
spotted.
to find him. Yep, there's the lens out. They're going to try and get him, but he's pretty quick, this old bug. Maple's like, where are you? I'm going to find you. Pops goes, pops Aurelian. That's going to force a flash redemption. He's going to be used to just do a bit of damage and try and get Diamond out.
He has bought time, wasting the Baron for his team.
Turret different, shrinking perhaps as Kira there in the top lane is going to claim the outer. Another Drake, though, will be forfeited over. Stejos burns the ulti just to make sure he's not the next victim of SwordArt 1v1s.
And right now you can give up a turret if you are the Flash Wolves. They're waiting for all 5 members to be at the map at the same time. They're going to pick up a dragon for themselves, and then they'll start the push of what will probably be the mid and bottom lanes. Kira's getting so he has to go back to base. and it looks like it's a matter of time.
You know, it's one of those things where you can always say level 16, 3-item Kassadin. It's like the always potential win condition. But in this situation, I don't know if it's going to be good enough to be able to bring the Gambit back from the dire straits that they're in.
If the game goes for long enough, eventually everyone will have 6 items.
Like 20 minutes. Yeah,
fact of League of Legends. However, can you get there is the age-old question. And this does not look like that is the case.
Extremely unlikely. Certainly less than 1% at this point. It has to feel like Gambit, I mean, they want to defend this legacy, but Flashes are just giving them no chance. They have something to fight for as well on this stage, and they're cracking 2 inhibs at once. That's awfully good value.
And Kira's still staying bottom lane. They're saying, we will be able to hold without you potentially. Get as much gold as you can and then come fight with us.
Probably have to if the game's going to be anything at all. But SwordArt finds the insta initiation onto Diamondprox. Ornn ready to go. Finds it, gets 3 men knocked up. And the turret is dying before the team fight's ever really over. Flash Wolves are just going to use this Baron and try and take it all down. It's a mess in the back end of the team fight as the Nexus gets exposed. Betty firing away, looking for Stejos as Kira's just fighting for his life. But there is nothing left but an ace as the Flash Wolves, they seek redemption among the best teams in the world, and they will erase their opponents to get that chance.
Just another day in the office for the Flash Wolves as they obliterate Gambit. They get better and better from game to game. In game 3, we get a little bit more of what we wanted from Gambit. We saw this early playmaking. We saw this composition that was a little bit more geared towards trying to make stuff happen. But Flash Wolves, they shut it down and they stormed through the opposition.
And the response is what we wanted to see, because it's all well and good to be able to play slow, structured League of Legends, but when you're going to go up against EVOS, when you're going to go up against RNG, you know that there are teams that will bum rush you and just look to get early game advantages. It looked like Gambit wanted to attempt that this game, but the Flash Wolves just show their class, show they can accelerate the pace, and honestly close out with relative ease.
I think that has to be the plan, honestly, for Gambit in the last game. Certainly applaud them for the effort they've made, but unfortunately for them, their run will stop here as the Flash Wolves are just starting theirs. They claim the final spot in the next stage of MSI.
So EVOS and the Flash Wolves were the ones to qualify that would join Fnatic, Liquid, RNG alongside
and the big boys,
King Zone, Dragon X. That's going to be one hype competition.
And now, you know, with SwordArt joining it, the pool of players is becoming so exciting to be able to track these teams that play such different, you know, methods of League of Legends. And Flash Wolves this game, like, I mean, they came in and when you look at their regional play, you say it's gotten weaker, you know, this is not the Flash Wolves of old. You kind of have to precurse it, warn people, you know, don't expect to see the heights of the brilliance, but then it just slowly starts to come back together, quite the same way that we said about EVOS yesterday. And this is a team that, you know, can potentially cause some damage.
And you look at this squad and questions were around how will Maple perform on this squad? Because you lost Kassa, and it always used to be Maple plus Kassa were the dynamic duo, the one that everybody feared because of how much synergy and how good they were together. But Moojin comes in, and he still plays a very similar style, maybe not as forward or as aggressive as Kassa. But this guy, 6-0-6 in the final game. He plays so much around Maple. They work so well together, and it just feels like Maple has this natural tendency to work so well with any jungler he's put with.
And you can see that even though they play towards the bottom side of Summoner's Rift, Hanabi in the top lane was able to stand up. I don't believe he died in the last 2 games. Game 1, I believe he died once or something ridiculous like that. This is a guy that you put him on a take, you put him on a carry, is able to get it done. And once again, that's the other rookie that we're looking at.
I mean, the stats were going to look good this game as we'll take another look at the game-winning fight brought to you by Acer Predator.
And this is, remember, a 5 versus 4 initially, and it all kicks off with SwordArt diving onto Diamond with a 3-man knockup. And Flash Wolves, they do not care what stands in front of them. They know they have such an insurmountable lead. Maple can so easily dive onto the backline, and Kira, he just offers absolutely nothing.
And this stopped becoming a League of Legends game and became a turret defense game. It was like hordes of minions rushing in, you know, the big angry super bosses coming at you as well, and you were just trying to micro your way through the situation, but it was just insurmountable.
Well, again, we talked a lot about the old guard, the SwordArts, the Betty, and the Maple. The core of the old Flash was doing so well. We do have an interview with Moojin coming up, though, and he's a player that I knew almost nothing about, just except for the few games I watched, and he's certainly impressed me.
I've been really enjoying his performance. I think that given that he started on a challenger team not too long ago and to join the Flash Wolves, he's come a long way, and there's nothing but growth in his future.
These are you junglers, man.
Something about something knockout stage play in junglers. For more on that note, though, for more on the Flash Wolves win, let's head over to Medic and hear from their jungler.
Thank you very much. I am joined by Moojin. Congratulations on the win. Now, you came into Flash Wolves to replace Kasa. Did you feel a lot of pressure on your shoulders?
우선 우승 너무 축하드립니다. 이제 플래시 월브의 카르사 선수 후로 정글러로 들어오셨는데 약간 부담감을 많이 느끼셨나요?
부담감은 항상 계속 느끼고 있고 솔직히 지금도 좀 많이 부담스럽긴 한데 대회를 이겨서 조금 이젠 좀 덜한 것 같아요.
Yeah, I feel a lot of pressure, and actually even now I'm feeling so much pressure, but as we just won, I'm feeling better now.
Okay, because you talk a little bit about the pressure. I was reading through some of your interviews in the past when you were on Team RB in the Challenger Series, and you said you really look up to Peanut as a jungler. Now you have to play in a competition with him as well. How does that affect you?
예전 인터뷰로 보니까 피넛 선수가 약간 롤 모델이라고 말씀하셨던데 이제는 피넛 선수와 같은 대회 출전하게 되셨어요. 그거 어떻게 생각하시나요?
일단 피넛 선수랑 같은 대회에 출전했다는 거는 솔직히 좀 되게 기분이 좋긴 한데 솔직히 좀 많이 부담스러워요. 근데 저는 지금 상태로는 비벼볼 만한 것 같아요. 서비스 것 같아요.
Yeah, so it's true, and I'm really happy to participate in the same tournament than Peanut. And I feel a bit of pressure, but I think we can do it.
Okay, because last year Flash Wolves came third in the tournament, lost out in the semi-finals. Do you think that this iteration of Flash Wolves can take it one step better and make it to the finals?
이제 작년 MSI 때 플래시 월즈가 3위를 했는데 올해는 좀 더 좋은 결과를 가질 수 있으신 것 같은가요?
지금처럼만 하면은 더 좋은 결과를 가져올 수 있을 것 같아요.
If we could play as we did today, I think we could have better results.
Okay, so do you think there's a specific team that stands in your way?
좀 견제되는 팀이 있다면?
아무리 생각해도 킹존밖에 견제되는 것. 네, 그냥 모든 팀도 다 견제되긴 하는데 유난히 킹존이 좀 더 무서워요, 저는.
Yeah, so all the teams are good, but especially Kingzone, of course.
It makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much for talking to me. We're going to hand it back across towards our analysts.
감사드립니다.
Thank you very much, Medic. Enjoying listening to Moojin after he went absolutely off in that series for the Flash Wolves. And he's also our player of the series. I mean, it was a close race between SwordArt and Moojin, but I think the fact that Moojin is a relative rookie coming into this squad and really had a lot on his shoulders to perform and did it is what, for me, tips it across for him to be the player of the series because he had a very, very standout performance today.
Yeah, Moojin was strong, and a lot of it came down to the matchup that we had at the very beginning of who was going to be able to take it. Was it going to be Moojin? Was it going to be Diamondprox? And it was definitely Moojin saying that, hey, I do have the synergy with myself and, of course, our mid laner Maple.
Yeah, and I really like that they drafted so that he had lanes that he could play to. The synergy between him and also Maple showed that they do have it, that they can actually play through that lane. I like the Trundle games and the Kha'Zix performance from him as well. Even though the Kha'Zix was like 2-0 for a very long time, the steal is what kind of tipped it over the edge there because that was the game decider. And I think in that first game, if that goes Gambit, the momentum of the series is completely different.
It is, but it won in the favor of the Flash Wolves, and they were just dominating throughout, really saying we do not belong in play-ins. We belong in the MSI group stage amongst the best of the best, and that is where they will find themselves. And I just want to round it up and look at the expectations that we had and now how different this Flash Wolves looks with the new members, because to me, it still feels very authentic Flash Wolves in that Moojin is great in the jungle. He has great synergy with Maple. SwordArt is absolutely still that rock bottom lane as well.
That's what my expectations were coming into this one, is that they had new members, but they were playing the same style. It was just about how they would fill those shoes. Specifically Hanabi, not a lot of people were talking about him, but he was constantly getting deep wards into the Krugs, which meant that his job was being fulfilled. He was being able to get to the team fights, but he was also able to get constant vision on the enemy jungle. So, of course, Moojin was going to always have vision of what's happening, and the lanes were going to be on top of like where Moojin had to be and where Maple needed to be to support him.
And it enables Moojin to make the best decision possible whenever he sees Diamondprox. And I loved the part where Hanabi went for an Ornn ultimate that baited the flash out of PVPStejos, kind of saying, I know you don't have vision here. I've kept you under your turret. There's no way you could possibly be here. And so he's saying, I'm going to play like my junglers here. And I love that from him, basically kind of bluffing his hand.
Yeah.
What I also like about the Flash Wolves is that, yes, they play similarly in lane priority and with a strong mid-jungle synergy, but it feels to me that they've picked up a bit of aggression and a bit of pace, because we know traditionally that Flash Wolves are pretty good early, but they did have the tendency to let games on the international stage go pretty long, go into those 5v5 brawls. Of course, it was then only Gambit, who is a weaker team than the teams we will see in the group stage of MSI. But if that's a trend, that's a positive for the Flash Wolves.
Exactly, and that point is fair about Gambit not being the competition show today. But that being said, going into today, we heard from SwordArt being able to say that they wanted to be a lot more aggressive. That was something 100% they needed. And bringing in fresh blood, even though we had questions of whether or not he's going to fill Karsa's shoes, that's a new communication route already. That later on in the game, when they were building around Baron, they were much more interested in the team fights rather than the Baron itself. So that's going to be really interesting once they get into the main stage, how many teams actually slip up to that pressure.
Yeah, because Flash Wolves, in my mind, are pretty much a team that's going to play some skirmishes early based off their mid-jungle. Then they're a 5v5 team through and through. They're going to have either a 1-4 or they're going to team fight you. They were team fighting with Kha'Zix constantly. And I was like, I don't feel like that's how you should be playing those fights out. And I think it worked a little bit more in their favor, like you said, because they're up against Gambit. And up against other teams, I don't know if those 5v5s will go their way every time. And that's what I want to see moving forward, is how their team fighting holds up against the other teams.
It'll be very interesting to see. To button up this series, Gambit is out. They put up a valiant fight, especially in the group stage of the planes. Their strengths showed and showed that they have something to build on, but they're just going to have to go back to the drawing board when it comes to that one step higher. The Flash Wolves are the only returning team to the MSI group stage from last year. All the other teams are different, so let's see what that dynamic looks like. And finally, Zyrene, you said it at the beginning of the day, if Flash Wolves won today, now because of that EVOS' victory yesterday, Vietnam finds themselves with a group stage spot at World.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that thing I said earlier in the day, not the other thing I said. Yeah, I'm away from that one. But yeah, Vietnam has constantly shown that they do deserve to have that spot in the group stage immediately. I mean, they've come out really kind of swinging in the last 3 international tournaments. 100%, they, we talk about emerging regions. They've emerged as the cream of the crop in the emerging regions.
Glad you brought it up, by the way. Your prediction sucked. You had Gambit.
There we go. Get out of here. Get out of here. I've got your back.
Why are you going to do this, Sharks? Just let me go.
Now you get back out of here.
I thought I'd get off the desk without it, man.
I faced the flame earlier. Now it's your time to shine, buddy.
I prefaced it.
It's such an ungrateful position to be in, because you have to work with not all the information just based on opinion, and then you get rinsed completely when you're on.
Keep defending me, Sharks. I need this.
You suck.
But that's the thing. That's the beauty of this kind of stage, because you don't get to see EVOS. You don't get to see Flash Wolves. And the only information you get is 2 patches ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of that information, even though we know these teams are clean, or in EVOS, you're like, well, sure, maybe they have some missteps in their own region. They come in preparing ultimately for that best of 5.
He's defending his yesterday prediction instead of talking about today.
You know what?
Guys, I'm going to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Sorry, talking about information. We're going to get some more insight and information from the Flash Wolves as Medic is standing by with Maple.
Thank you, guys. I'm joined by Maple. Congratulations very much on that win. The Flash Wolves has changed quite a bit in the last year. You brought in Hanabi and Moojin as well. Exactly how has the team changed over the last 6 months?
恭喜你们赢得胜利。然后你们这次有新的队员，就是哈拉比跟木青加入。那在过去6个月以来，这对你们的队伍有产生什么样的不同的变化吗？
木槿的话，就是其实风格也跟卡萨蛮像的，所以其实跟我也蛮搭的。然后上路Hanabi的话，就是他的战术更多元嘛，因为他的角色他会玩一些斗士，然后像 GP 啊、卡米尔这种的，所以让我们的上路变得更那个灵活。
So in the case of Moojin, he's really similar to Karsa in terms of play. So I have no problem gelling with him. My chemistry with him is pretty well. And in Hanabi, he has a wild style of play, and he has a wide champion pool. So that brings us more dynamic and like bringing fighters like GP or Camille into the game for us.
They both seem to have gelled quite well with the team. The last 2 times you have been at MSI, you've come up to the semi-finals, haven't been able to make it any further. Do you think with this new lineup, you can make it all the way to the finals?
所以过去你们打 MSI 的时候都只有进到4强，那没有办法再晋级。那这次来讲，你们觉得这次比较有希望再更进一步吗？
就每次国际赛，因为我们 MSI 都是4强嘛，当然会希望这一次一定要突破，就是比以前更好的成绩。
Yeah, we always reach semifinals in MSI in the past. Of course, we want to surpass that, so we want to try and get to the finals.
Makes a lot of sense. And the last time we saw you on an international stage, it didn't go too well. You only won 1 game at Worlds. Is there a lot of pride on the line for you specifically at MSI this year?
就像我们去年打世界赛的时候，你们只有赢1场。那这次来又到是国际级的比赛在 MSI， 你们想证明什么？
那一年世界赛的话，我觉得就是因为我们打很差嘛，然后重点是没有把平常我们训练赛的东西打出来，所以这次的话就是我们要把我们练习的100%，然后展现在比赛上面这样。
We didn't do that well at Worlds because I think we didn't showcase our talent like what we did in scrims in the games. This time we hopefully will show what we practiced 100% during the games, and we'll probably do better.
I hope to see you play well. Good luck in group stages as well. Thank you very much, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Medic and Maple. And this is the part where we get to theorize about how good the Flash Wolves and the other teams can do at the MSI group stage. Let's take a look now that we have all our representatives in the group stage, all 6 buttoned up. After the play-ins, we have EVOS most recently joining Flash Wolves just today. Fnatic from Europe, Team Liquid, Kingzone, Dragon X, and in the end, Royal Never Give Up from the LPL. First off, let me say, this is a wonderful, wonderful composition of group, I would say.
Oh,
we have
yeah.
all new representatives outside of the Flash Wolves. We have a VCS representative back in there, and we have new champions coming out of all the regions.
Yeah, I really like it because it's refreshing for almost everybody except for the Flash Wolves, especially for North America, because now a different team can let us down in the group stage.
I didn't know you were going to go.
That's a good mix-up. I'll say this. One thing I really love about it was that the 4 teams that were already guaranteed to go this far, a lot of people were just zeroing in on the bottom lane. It's like, oh, Uzi, you know, the Korean AD carries,
Gorilla,
beautiful, phenomenal. And then we're throwing in the play-in team specifically, and we're getting a lot of good stuff coming in the mid lane, Maple, and then of course Jungle as well from EVOS, Jhin. So there's a lot of good flavor coming in just to mix up the compositions going in the bottom.
Absolutely, and usually when the junglers are pretty hyped and there's big competition, it means that we see pretty active games and aggressive games in terms of meta. We can only hope. How much do you think the meta is going to change going into MSI? Do you think teams are going to play more careful, more slowly in those best of ones?
I don't know if they'll play more slowly. I think teams are going to find their stylistic niche, and I think we're going to see more champions than we have already. Because like if you look stylistically at these teams, we have 3 teams that are pretty bottom lane focused, then Flash Wolves, which are mid lane focused, EVOS jungle focused, top lane, and then you have Kingzone, which are very flexible, but you have Khan.
Yeah.
You cannot like play against Kingzone without thinking about what is Khan going to pick in the draft and how is Peanut going to play around it, because this team is very different than the other ones in the group.
And then you have the best team in the group, Fnatic from the EU LCS.
Oh, wait a second.
Kidding.
Hold on a minute.
I'm just kidding. Obviously, I am very much looking forward as a representative from the EU LCS to Fnatic. They had a fantastic split. They, of course, beat out G2, and they just looked very, very clean. And now I want to kind of know from you guys what you're expecting of your own teams from your own region. So how do you think RNG is going to do, Raz?
RNG, I do think that I've already made a mention of this. I think they're going to the finals. I'm just going to put that out immediately, just because a lot of the focus is Uzi.
That
really
story.
incredibly, exactly. The story is phenomenal that he rode that all the way to the LPL finals, incredibly strong in how he's able to output that. And then we saw MLXG really surpassing the MLXD point of view. Like he's actually really strong at the point. Also bringing in Karsa behind him. So it's really cool that they have that kind of dynamic coming across. And Xiaohu's been a beast. So it's fun to see the double threat coming out of the mid and bottom lane. And it's fun that you mentioned Fnatic because they have a little bit of that as well with Reckless and Caps. So that specific matchup is going to be fun to watch.
It will be. Team Liquid, what are they going to do? What are their strengths?
What are they going to do, man?
Well, I expect nothing. And
what? Why?
I'm still disappointed no matter
Not a read. I think, come on.
I do think they will make it into groups, or into the knockout stage. Sorry, top 4.
Okay.
I'm expecting top 4 for Team Liquid. There's a lot of questions about Impact right now because he always seems to turn it on in playoffs. He had the Singed pick that came out and gave them kind of an edge over their opponent, and he was playing particularly well. So if their level that they kept in finals and towards the end of the NALCS comes through, I think that they can potentially make it to the finals, depending on the matchup that they have in the top 4. But I really want to see what Doublelift and Ole are able to do up against these bottom lanes that have like Reckless in it, that have Uzi in it, because I thought Doublelift was having a fantastic playoffs. He was having the playoffs of his career.
Absolutely, and I really hope he can continue that, and then Team Liquid is able to compete with all of the teams. You say it's a new team that can disappoint us. I think it's a new team that could possibly do very well on the international stage, so we'll just have to see.
Look, and you can never tell when it comes to MSIs, because even though I said that RNG was going to make a charge to finals, we've had finals with the only guarantee has been the Korean teams going to the finals.
Yeah.
So this time around, perhaps Kingzone Dragon X comes through, but is it going to be the North American team like CLG did? Is it going to be like the European like G2 once did? So a lot of the times you get those teams that make the stretch, and you only really find out their level in the group stage. So the group stage, like, I'm going to love to watch it. I mean, I'm saying RNG, but
But as you mentioned, well, it's clear that Kingzone Dragon X is going to be in the final. How big is the gap between them and the rest of the playing field?
Between them and RNG, I don't think it's astronomically large, but I think between them and the rest of the field, I'm saying they drop probably one game in the group stage.
Yeah, when they're already qualified for the next round. Oh, there's also that extra caveat now that if you end #1, you get to pick who you play in the semifinals. I cannot wait for the Salt. As far as I remember correctly, that is the case. I hope that is correct. Okay. So that I'm just looking forward to the Salt mine that is going to explode when something or the other happens. But it does give you even more incentive to really, when often we talk about teams sandbagging here or there or whatnot in the group stage, no, it's fantastic if you get that #1 spot and you get to pick who you want to avoid in those semifinals.
Yeah, because I think we had something where Chinese team was #1, had to go against Korea in the first round. Feels bad, man.
Feels
and
very
it ended
bad,
up
man.
being like, oh, I wish you probably had the Korean team do a little better, or you could have picked somebody else. So that would be cool.
Well, a lot to theorize, and well, we'll know on Friday already. That is when we come back and go into it with the group stage. It's starting at 11 a.m. Central European Summer Time. That is 2 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Again, not a lot of practice for the teams that won here today. You know, Flash Wolves straight back to the drawing board, and the very first matchup, Fnatic versus Royal. Never give up. Raz, you excited?
You got to wake up early for this one, because this is when the entire European region gets let down from the beginning. I'm putting it out there, all right? I'm getting that all out there. It might happen, and if it doesn't...
It might happen. Wow, that's strong.
At me.
What's your Twitter handle? Drop. No, I'm just kidding.
Also, Kingzone Dragon X versus Team Liquid is NALCS's first match. Oof, talk about trial by fire.
I think we can just have it pass through at the beginning. You want to have that, bad part, and then you get to play Evos later.
Yeah.
You get to feel a little bit better about yourself going to the second day that way, and so you don't have to be, let down the whole time. Get it out of the way. I think we'll also be sleeping at that point, so people in NA will miss that.
No, we're watching it all, and this is what I love when we get to the MSI group stage, because it is the #1s of every region, and it's only the best of the best. Every matchup is good, and you want to watch every matchup.
Yes.
We'll be exhausted at the end, but we'll have our fill of great League of Legends. We saw a lot of great League of Legends already throughout the knockout stage, and you guys, you said in your big plays on Twitter. Let's take a look, brought to you by Acer Predator. First up, Warzone. He backed up his trash talk about GBM yesterday as he took down the rest of Evos, rather took down Supermassive. Let's check out one of his plays from yesterday.
Runs through the mid lane, gets a little bit of extra experience, just enough to get to level 4. We're gonna have to hold that thought. He's a level 6 advantage. Still comes in for GBM. He's gonna try to go under, but this
what's Warzone doing
against them. Warzone wants to fire back, just trying to sidestep. There's nothing there for GBM. Gets the kill. Now Stonemage maybe next. Here comes the craze. They're gonna get another one. Oh my God! Outplayed. What is Supermassive doing?
I think GBM has just lost his mind
for a second. That is the exact moment GBM got tilted off the face of the earth.
I'd be tilted too, by the way. That's not good.
That's not good. Warzone, fantastic job by him, but also the jungle carry for Evos came up huge. At Magic of Limbo was inspired, tweeting, Yijin getting me hyped to play some Graves jungle and feed uncontrollably.
So there's no objective reward here for Supermassive.
Now Yijin, what is he doing?
Oh, here comes the Ornn ulti.
So he's gonna go for it!
No! Oh my God, goodbye! That's not a Kha'Zix, that's a Graves, baby. In the middle of everything, the shotgun hitting home, melee range, and he is not concerned, but he should be. The shutdown comes through from GBM. Stark still trying to turn this fight, still trying to keep it going. Meanwhile, Slay is pushing on the top side. Supermassive grasping at straws, just trying to kill the Ornn, but he's still...
Oh, it went, but this is where the plays were a second ago.
That's definitely my standout of the tournament so far, is just Yijin's performance, because it got me really hyped to go play some jungle, just like he was saying, and be like, I want to try to carry, because it's something that a lot of junglers haven't felt in a while, where they feel like they have a lot of agency in the game.
And that's all the future competitors out there in MSI main stage. They're going to be looking at that play specifically, and it's like, that's mind games. Why is he even there? His team's not even going to support him. He just knows he has the damage.
2v5. and they get 2 for 2.
Well,
that is actually bonkers.
One of their those competitors, he threw down the gauntlet today already. Moojin was an absolute beast on Kha'Zix in game 1 at Senders. 127 jumped on the hype train. Baron Steel, let's go.
The carry is dead for Flash Wolves. They do have the... Oh, TP unavailable for Hanabi. Gambit now on the Baron. Keep your eyes on Moojin.
Trogath around here as well, but like you said, he's a little too late. Moojin going to try and make a steal happen, but they're trying to snip him out. He's going to make it into the pit if he can try. He needs to time out well. He's so low in health. This is Moojin steals the Baron away.
Nice. Love it.
Yep, I love it too. You know, you just get to those points. You already mentioned that was a pretty series-defining play where the guy just goes through, and he had Edge of Night too. That's what the worst thing about it too. He had Edge of Night, so it's like, yeah, you can proc it off, but then you need to commit another CC point. So it's Braum holding the ulti, everyone's trying to hold their ability to stop him, and he just finds his way inside the pit anyways.
Yeah, and when I was looking at that again, I noticed that the middle lane has all these super minions that are pushing into the base of Gambit. So they are on a timer, so they felt rushed to do the Baron, even though the smite isn't up for another 10 or so seconds. So they're in a position where you hold the Baron for 10 seconds, and then you take all that damage, or somebody has to go find Moojin. So it was just kind of in the moment with all of that hype and the stakes, you can't make a mistake in terms of team play, and they made one right there.
Yeah. This will be the end of the Plains stage, guys. A lot of great plays, a lot of good teams. Favorite moment from Plains? Go.
Ejin.
Oh, wait a minute. Ejin. Yeah, I'm taking.
I mean, sorry, working with Raz.
Okay, all right, yeah, I agree. No, well, it's gonna be us for us here for the MSI Plains. Thank you. We will see you as we kick off the group stage on Friday, and to the occasion and the end of the Plains. I think we need to bust some moves as we go.
Let's go.
Okay, you know what?
Oh.
I love my job.
Where you going, Raz? Where you going?
Love the fact that they are just grouping up in mid-stages and getting clapped.
Yeah, caught again, maybe a little too much there with the face. SwordArt on the back with Moojin looking to make a big play happen. Kira there with the ulti ready to go, but SwordArt gets a 4-man knock. Hanabi can smell it. He wants it, he's aggressive, tries to pull the feathers through. Everybody gets blown, trying to snip him out. He's going to make it into the pit if he can try. He needs to time it well. He's so low in health. This is Moojin steals the Baron away.
Nice.
As the Fighters will take the first Nexus in what should be one hell of a series. Played, Maple coming up, he's got the ear, great pulver. The Flash is going to pull him back in, and first blood goes beautifully. Moojin getting aggressive on his Stejos back in the front line, gets a knock-up, he's going to try and take down the jungler. That could be Baron, but Maple, he's plugging the ulti and charging up the Nova. Lodik cutting back around as Stejos does fall.
Good knock-up from Stejos.
And actually finds the AD carry, betting low, now they're going to go with Maple. Burns is on his SwordArt, taking up Akira, already dead, there's just too much of Flatros, too far ahead. We're going to score a triple now, one game away from reaching that goal. Here we go, charging down the bot lane. I think they have to know what's up now. SwordArt barely going to miss beating a binding of Benny. About to get drifted up. First blood charging straight in. It is Stejos onto Benny. Oh, Kira's flanking who? Kira, yeah, got to be careful. Over the wall you go. Oh, he goes onto them. I think it must have been a misclick. I mean, they're trying to find him, but Maple busy with the bot lane. In the meantime, a route lands into Kira. They pull off the round. Flatros just know every move Gambit is going to make. And SwordArt, he's finding there's he going in, but it just doesn't matter. But there is nothing left but an ace. As the Flatros, they seek redemption among the best teams in the world, and they'll erase their opponents to get that chance.